Hi folks, how you doing? Great, my name is Stan and I'm pretty much happy and excited to be sitting right here just to speak a word into your life. See, one of my friends asked me to do a video and said, Stan, I want you to do a video on peppers. So I took a bit of time with myself to meditate, because obviously you don't just, because somebody say do a message on peppers, you don't just walk up in front of the camera and say, oh, let me do a message on peppers. You don't do that. So I sat down with myself and I started meditating. I started thinking about the word peppers, started thinking about everything I've read about peppers and everything I've heard about peppers. And then I started asking God questions, about peppers. So as I was sitting down meditating about peppers, one of the frequent things that came to me was that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. When the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. If you don't know the reason why something has been given, you are most likely going to abuse it, because you don't know why it has been given. In other words, every privilege that is given to anybody, if it's not explained, it will be abused. I mean, there is so much abuse of privileges. I mean, we have people in political office. It's a privilege to be in a political office. But we have people in political offices abusing political office. Why? Because they don't understand the privilege. They don't understand the purpose of being in a political office. In other words, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. Why do we have power being abused? Why? Because people don't understand the purpose of having authority. They don't know why they have the power, so they abuse it. When the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. But now, what then should we do in order to rectify this mess, to get purpose in place? What should we do? The first thing that we need to do is we need to first identify the thing, because the purpose of a thing lies in its definition. If you can define it, then you can determine its purpose. The purpose of a thing is determined by its identity. So we need to first and foremost understand what the thing is. Give it a name. When you give it a name, then afterwards you can determine for what purpose has it been established. When people understand exactly what it is, when people have that clear understanding of what the thing is, then they can have a clear understanding of what it is supposed to be used for. For some people that might be aware, might be familiar with this. You probably have watched the movie, The Gods Must Be Crazy. When this sub-Saharan man saw a bottle fall, I can't call a bottle to be more precise, fall from the sky. Why? Because there was a white man flying over and he threw his Coca-Cola bottle, and this black man, this African, this brother of mine sees this bottle and he has no idea what this thing is and what it is for. He picks it, and guess what he says? The gods must be crazy, because he takes it and he doesn't even know for what purpose is it. So some people use it for preparing meals. Some kids hit one another with it. I mean, people use this bottle for just about anything, and he just had no idea what it was and what it was for. See, when the purpose of a thing is not known, like I said earlier, abuse is inevitable. This bottle was abused. Why? Because nobody knew what it was, and nobody knew what it was for. And that is the same with a lot of our lives. You see, a lot of people look at themselves and they say the gods must be crazy. For what purpose have they created me? Because they have done just about everything and anything with their lives, and they just can't find fulfillment. In other words, they have abused themselves so badly that they just don't understand what is the purpose of their lives anymore. And like I said, the purpose of a thing lies in its definition. If you can define it, then you can determine its purpose. If you can define it, then you can determine its purpose. Which is the very same thing with our lives. If we can't define ourselves, if we can't give ourselves an identity, if we just don't know who we are, then we're most likely going to abuse ourselves. And that's where it starts. We start by abusing ourselves. And how do we abuse ourselves? We abuse ourselves by taking drugs. We abuse ourselves by womanizing. We abuse ourselves by stealing from other people. We abuse ourselves by doing so many other things. Why? Because we have no idea who we are and what we are supposed to be doing. And the sad thing is that in the process, we lose love for ourselves. And the moment we lose love for ourselves, we're definitely not going to have love for nobody. What then does it then entail? It simply means that we're going to start abusing other people. We start by abusing ourselves. Why? Because when the purpose of a thing, abuse is inevitable. I'm going to abuse myself. Why? Because I have no idea who I am. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. So in other words, anything that I find, I do it. Why? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. The reason why I'm on the street corner smoking that marijuana is because I have no idea who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. The reason why I'm flipping over this screwdriver is simply because I have no idea who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. I just can't determine the purpose of a thing, then I abuse it. Why? Because I have no idea what it is and what it is for. In other words, you need to understand that purpose is key. Purpose is vital. Purpose is important. But then purpose lies in the definition of a thing. The first thing we need to do is we need to be able to define ourselves. We need to be enlightened in the knowledge of who we are and what we are supposed to be doing on planet Earth. Let me tell you, the moment a person discovers who they are in God, they will stop abusing themselves, because they will develop love for themselves, and they will be able to love other people, and they'll be able to make a difference in this world. Why? Because they have a clue and they have a picture who they are. Let me tell you, the key, most important thing in life is discovering self, my brother. You might realize that I must speak this message and speak it in so many different ways. Why? Simply because I needed to get it to you. Because you need to understand that discovering who you are in God is key, is significant, it's important. Why? Because your purpose lies in the knowledge of self. If you have a poor sense of self, a poor knowledge of self, that simply means that you'll have a poor way of conducting your life. You will abuse the life that you have. And if you do that, my brother, if you abuse yourself, because you have no idea who you are and what you are supposed to be doing, what are the things that God has destined you to do on planet Earth, and you can't fulfill purpose. Why? Because you have no idea who you are. Like I said, my brother, your purpose lies in the discovery of self. Your purpose is derived from the definition that is there. If you can define who you are, then in that definition, you'll be able to find your purpose. You'll be able to find the things that you're supposed to be doing. And you'll be able to impact the world. And you'll be a person of significance, a person of worth, a person of impact, a person that will change the world, a person who will not leave the world the same way it was when you showed up. The purpose of a thing lies in its definition. If you can define it, then you can give it a purpose. In other words, if you can define your life, then your life can have a purpose. But if you live a life that is undefined, I remember this one at the time. I wanted to open a bank account. So I had an electricity bill, and the electricity bill was supposed to work as proof of residence. And I took this electricity bill to the guys who were supposed to open a bank account for me. The bank. I handed them. I hadn't checked anything. When I gave it to them, they told me that we are so sorry because it is written undefined street. The moment the street was undefined, automatically that proof of residence lost its purpose. It no longer had a purpose. It couldn't work the way I wanted it to work. Why? Because it had an undefined street. Though it was my electricity bill, but the street was undefined, therefore it could not serve its purpose. And that is the big problem we have in the world today. We have a lot of people that are undefined. The moment you see something is undefined, automatically it loses its purpose. The moment your life is undefined, it will not have a purpose. It will not mean anything to anybody. Why? Because it is undefined. In other words, you need to get your life defined. Your life has got to be defined, and it should be defined in the parameters of God. God should be the one who defines your life. If your life is to be defined, it should be defined in the parameters of God. What I'm simply saying is, if a thing is not defined, then its purpose will not be known. And when its purpose is not known, then it will not live to the fullest of its potential. Why? Because it is characterized with the abuse. It is characterized with abuse. It's going to be abused. Why? Because nobody knows what it is. It's undefined. It can't be used. It can't be used for anything significant, for anything good. Why? Because it's undefined. I need somebody to develop a hunger on the inside of them and say, my life has got to be defined. Refuse to be undefined. Refuse to be undefined. If there's anything that you should refuse, you should refuse to be undefined. In other words, something should be ignited on the inside of you when you say, I don't want to abuse my life. I don't want to abuse my life. I don't want to abuse my life. I don't want to abuse myself with drugs. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to abuse myself with women or with men. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to abuse myself. No, I don't want to abuse myself with alcohol and drinks. Why? Because I need to live a life that is defined. I need to discover who I am. I need to have a purpose and I need to fulfill it. My brothers and sisters, be rest assured that each and every one of us is a carrier of a divine purpose. You carry a divine purpose. You may not feel like it. You may not think like it. You may not act like it. It may not seem like it. But you are a carrier of a divine purpose. You carry a divine mandate from God. You are not statistics. You are not just another person on planet Earth. No. I need you to understand that God is not like a factory that is busy making cups. He's not into mass production. No, God is not into mass production. God thought of you before He even created you. So the scriptures tell us pretty clearly that I knew thee way before I even formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were even knitted in your mother's womb, guess what? God knew you. God knew the sex you were going to be. Don't be confused with which sex you are. Don't be confused with which sex you are, because the sex you are is the sex that God originally intended you to be. The purpose of a thing is determined by God way before time. So go back to Him. Say, God, define me. God, I want to be defined and I want to be defined by you. God, I want to be enlightened. I want to be enlightened by you. God, I want my eyes of understanding to be open, and I want them to be opened by you. You need to discover this. You need to understand this. The real you is found in God. And when you find yourself in God, you then find the purposes and the plans that God has for your life. They're all wrapped up in you discovering who you are in Him. Refuse to be statistics, my brother. Refuse to be statistics, my sister. Become a fulfiller of the plans and the purposes of the living God for your life. Refuse to be just about anybody else. You need to understand that you carry purpose. And your purpose is wrapped up in the knowledge of self. When you discover who you are, you discover your purpose. Why? Because purpose is derived from the knowledge of self. The purpose of a thing is derived from its definition. If you can define a thing, therefore you can determine its purpose. Are you able to define your life? Therefore are you also able to tell for what reason and what purpose have you been created?